3 a.m. on a Saturday morning. My wife is gone. My daughter is about ready to give me another grandchild. And my son Simon is upstairs at the bedside of his grandfather, who is on hospice. Welcome to the Buckley household. As you can probably tell, I'm feeling just chipper. So, as you can probably notice, I'm a little bit under the weather, and I've been trying to decide whether I'm just gonna let this ride out and wait till I get better before I started the podcast, before I started these videos, and I realized I'm probably under the weather more often than not these days. One of the beautiful series of choices when I was a teen. They come back and they bite you in the butt. But the thing is people need to hear these things. People need encouragement today. Things are kind of bat crap crazy out in the world. And I wanted to step in and try as much as I can to be a voice of reason, to be a new perspective, if you will, on parenting and on life. This podcast, anything that I've ever done, if you've read my parenting blog over the last, I blogged for about 12 years. And unfortunately, I had a horrible talent to attract hackers who love to get into my websites and change links to the things that I was doing for parents and for kids and send them to unfavorable websites. We'll just call it that. So I would, not being a techie, I would have the choice of either trying to figure out how to fix it, and if I did that, leaving the links and sending children to places that I would just gasp and pass out over, or I could just disable my website. And I chose to be merciful to parents and to children, and so my parenting website has gone through evolutionary period for a long time, as long as I've been trying to do this for families. And this time, I think we got it set up right. This is not to tempt fate. This is just, we haven't had any real issues in the last 2 to 3 years. So I figured it's time to get up and to put on my gloves and put my fists up, and let's go see if we can help some families. And, you're going to hear this time and time again from my mouth, and that is, life is never going to turn out the way that you think it will. It's not that things won't happen the way that you want or that you work towards. It's so rare that things will turn out exactly the way that you planned, in every way that you planned. And so you need to roll with the things that just are. That's part of being a parent. All of your children are going to have, unique personalities. They're going to have their own ways of thinking and doing things, their own capacities and comprehension levels. And you have to work within those spheres. And same thing here with circumstances, the variables in life. And guess what? My circumstances aren't going to be perfect to be able to talk with you, whether it's health. Those who listen to my fiction podcasts, Life of Fiction or Life is Like Fiction, both I do with my family. I'm here in this Harry Potter-esque type office. I'm under the staircase, and to my left is the famous Wall of Shame, which happens to have all the plumbing in my household. So anytime someone 2 floors up uses the bathroom and flushes the toilet, you're going to hear it. So I'm warning you ahead of time. This is just the way that things are. And if by some wonderful stroke of luck or the universe or God and I'm able to have a studio in the future, then that's what we'll use and we will improve upon things. Good news is I have a whole new setup to do things portably. So I actually can go do this in my car. Unfortunately, it would only be audio and not video. I haven't mastered that. So this is what you get right now. Those of you who will be watching this on YouTube or other places, you got my shining and award-winning smile. There you go. And everyone gets my voice. So this is the kickoff of season 1 of Fundamentals of Parenting. Laugh, learn, repeat. Because I think we as parents, for all the things that are required of us, all the things that we signed up for, and so many things we didn't, we need to laugh a lot more. And I want you to know that you're not alone. So this season is called Discovering Your Parenting Why. And I cannot tell you how many times over the years I've been asked why my wife and I chose to have a large family. And to this day, I find it odd. Not that it's an odd question in and of itself, but rather because it's never made sense to me why people wouldn't want to have a large family themselves. I mean, when people ask me, my quick answer is, if you met my kids, you'd want more. You would. My children are that type. And people enjoy my family, and we enjoy them. Throughout the hundreds of conversations I've had over the years, I noticed that the main determining factor between those who had children, or a lot of them, and those who didn't was what they valued. And I want to be careful here because I have no intention to offend people, though if I'm going to talk principle and I'm going to talk truth, your feelings are going to be at the bottom of the list. So you can go ahead and email me, or on YouTube you can throw horrible comments at me. That's fine. But the parents here are going to talk. The adults are going to have a conversation here. And I am here because I respect your place. And I respect your office as a parent, whether you're mom or dad. And I want you to succeed. I want other people who love their family and love their children to be in this world so that I can associate with you and my children can associate with you and your children. I have ulterior motives in doing these podcasts and in doing these videos, and that ulterior motive happens to be I want a better world. I want happier neighbors. I want to get away with that's the wrong phrase. Not get away with. I want to instruct certain types of people to hopefully choose a better route in how they speak of and with people like myself and my wife and my children. So back to value. This doesn't make a person, it doesn't make them good or bad in my mind. It really doesn't. It just was. It just is. We all have different goals in life. We have different expectations, dreams, hopes, and having children creates dynamic changes in our lives. So some people consider kids as a burden or just as a bill and not a benefit and a blessing. I find that sad, but I can also see that perspective. Individuals like this tend to focus on the cost and not the outcome. And again, I don't see this as good or bad, and we all have our choice. It just surprised me that so many people that I've met over the years just couldn't seem to see what I did. Sadly, there's also those who either look down upon families like mine, or they simply they don't know what to say. What do you say when a guy comes out? Hi, do you have children? I do. Really? How many do you have? 13. You usually have to pat him on the back at that moment. So they spew out something trying to be funny. And what I'm going to tell you right now, usually they just end up looking like an ass. Don't you know where babies come from? And good grief, don't you have anything better to do than making babies? Yeah, like I said, an ass. So I'm a protective personality, all right? You can say most anything to me and I'll likely just shrug it off, or I'll laugh with you, or I'll throw sarcasm back at you. There will be an exchange. Everything's good and fine. Here's the thing. Go after my wife or go after my children and I'm going to bite you. I'm not going to apologize about it. I'm going to bite you. And trust me when I say it would be better for you if we were friends. There's no reason to be unkind, especially when the person you attack has done nothing to harm you or even offend you. Yet some folks just have to share their emotional vomit whether you want them to or not. Now, my wife and I had just welcomed child number 6, who happens to be my daughter who is in labor as we speak. And we had just welcomed her into our home, and for the first time, Kathy wanted to get out, even though the trip was just to our local grocery store. Now, I'm going to say the name of the store because we love them, and it is, I think, the best store in our state. It is called Macy's, and it is a family atmosphere, and we had lived long enough in the neighborhood that many of the female clerks knew us because my wife tended them. She changed half their diapers. And it was fun to go into a place where, it's like a family version of Cheers. Everybody knows your name. And when we got to the checkout, the young lady greeted us kindly, asking how my wife was doing. They chatted for a moment, and then she added, "Oh my goodness, is this the new baby?" "Yes." Isn't this like number 6? And I hear this gasp to my left. And I turned to this lady who, she was just a kind, regular person as far as I knew, standing there waiting to check out. And she gasped and said, 6 children? Really? You have 6 children? That's disgusting. Why would you bring so many mouths into this world? And what was sad is that everybody in a 10-foot bubble around us froze. That negative emotion and tone just took over. The woman was, I'm guessing, probably in her late 60s. She was in a tank top. She had faded tattoos up and down her arms and across her collarbone, accented with multiple piercings down both earlobes and one side of her nose. I'm not judging. I have friends, I have family that are tattooed and pierced, so. But it seemed to make everything, it seemed to jump out at me at that moment. And the clerk, the nice young lady, she looked away. She was extremely embarrassed. And my wife, on the other hand, frowned and took our baby and held her closer to her chest. I smiled at my wife, and I leaned in and I whispered, "I'll meet you at the car." "Sweetheart, don't. Please don't." She started to say, "But when you make comments like that in public, and you're unkind to people in public, in my mind and in my opinion, the only proper course is to reply in public." And she knew that I would not budge on this. So with a nod, she led the teenage bagger and our cart of groceries outside to the car. And I turned my attention to the woman beside me. "That was awfully unkind, ma'am," I said softly, keeping my tone even and polite. "Why would you criticize people like that. People that haven't said anything to you. They haven't offended you. Other than just being. Why would you say that? And without pause, she sneered at me and she says, I'd kill myself before having that many kids. And you know, I have to admit that me and Karma have had this special arrangement ever since I got married to my adorable wife. I looked at the woman and I nodded thoughtfully. And then I replied, you know, that's good. Because not everyone should breed. The clerk, the young lady, she slapped a hand over her mouth and just turned away and started giggling, while every patron in our aisle and those on either side just started laughing out loud. And this woman was just seething in anger, and she turned to the very tall man behind her, standing there with his son, and she snapped, "Did you hear what he just said to me?" To which this man leaned forward into her face, almost touching nose to nose. "Yes, I can." Thumbing the over 6-foot teenage boy behind him, he added, "Number 7. And I'll tell you something, folks. I've never seen a senior citizen move so fast through a crowd and out of a grocery store before. Now, the why. You know that I always try to do the why and how with everything with parenting. The why is there are countless reasons why people have children. And of course, most of them, I don't want to say all, but most of them are personal. Thing is, it's not a contest. We're not competing against each other. It's a journey. I have friends who wanted children so they could live their own childhood again, but this time through the eyes of another. I have a friend of mine who had sweet and clever nephews and wanted to have a son of his own. That was his only motivation. He loves his nephews. My cousin wanted to have children just to spoil them. I kid you not. He had grown up under humble circumstances, so he worked hard to generate a small fortune for himself and his wife. When she said that she wanted children, he was absolutely overjoyed because he had the means to give his children anything they wanted. As for myself, well, I wanted to have children because I wanted to be a father. I wanted to teach and care for and protect and guide young minds and hearts into happy, strong, well-adjusted members of society. It was my way of making the world a better place. And finding your own why is one of the most important discoveries one can make as a parent, because that single discovery will shape or reshape the core of who you will become as an adult. The how. How do you find your why? Simply put, you just have to ask for it. I took time to ponder my life when my wife was pregnant with our first child, my daughter Cecily. I love you, Cecily. I know you're going to listen to this eventually. Daddy loves you. Many late nights sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee asking myself specific questions. Why do I want to be a father? What am I willing to sacrifice to become a father? What kind of children do I want to raise? What expectations will I have for them? Are those expectations reasonable not only for me, but for my wife? And what kind of relationship do I want to have with my children? And over I asked myself questions, always coming back to, but why do I want that? And the reason why I did that is to distill the information down until I couldn't ask why anymore, because I would know why. I would know the answer from head to toe, balls to bone. I wanted to become a father because it is who I am, and it's who I was always meant to be. Because I'm willing to sacrifice and suffer, work, repeat, and provide a stable, consistent life for these little souls who come into my family, and never give up on them. Because their existence, care, and teaching are the most important thing to me in my life. And that's my why. And I'll tell you what, if you doubt me, you look at my children, and you look at my grandchildren. Oh. Conclusion, after all the pondering over what I could share with you this year, I couldn't think of anything more important than our why. There is no single thing I can think of that's more critical to our survival or our success as parents. So that's what I'd like to show you. How to come to the truth of your own why, and how it will become the foundation of the brilliant and dynamic family you already have or plan to create in the future. Now, what to do next? It's time for you to take a little bit of time for yourself and discover your own why for being a parent. So here's what I suggest. Take some personal time without distractions to ask yourself some honest questions. Make sure you write questions and thoughts down on paper. Don't trust your memory because you will forget and paper doesn't forget. And be honest with yourself. Ask these questions and answer them honestly. Nobody else has to see this. Nobody else has to know. But you need to be honest with yourself and about your motivations. So think about what motivates you. Ponder about what is most important to you in your life. Why do you want to be a parent? Ask yourself why over and over again, answering honestly to yourself until you can't anymore. You'll soon uncover your why, and we're going to be able to build upon it. And you've got this. I believe in you. And that's our first podcast of the season. And I'm going to do something a little bit different here. In books, they ask for a review. I'm not going to ask for a review. I'm not going to ask you to go to Apple and to leave a review or 5-star or anything. 5-star, 1-star, I don't care. I don't want to play the game that the rest of society plays. I'm going to, throughout this podcast and through my website, I'm writing books and manuals and creating games, all these things for you and for your family. Oh, that might be the results of having a grandchild. Instead, I want to ask you to think about 2 to 3 people who could use this information, who could use this encouragement, and to improve their parenting skills. And tell them. Please tell 2 to 3 people. That's what I'm going to ask you to do. And if you have any questions, if you have any ideas, or you're struggling with something in particular, let me know. You can email us here at hello@fundamentalsofparenting.com, or when you go to any of the articles on the website, there is a form located at the bottom of each and every article on the blog. Go ahead and fill out the question there or what you're struggling with, and I will strive to address it on the podcast. So remember, if you enjoy this podcast, think of 2 to 3 people who could benefit from this and share it with them. And we'll see you next time.